First of all, I'll take apologies. I have an apology from Councillor Strange. However, she will be online for one of the text items later on, probably this afternoon. And Councillor Moot has joined us online. So I have the one apology, Councillor Angela Strange.
Councillor Kneebone's just 10 minutes late.
Okay, so
he's here. Cool.
So he's here. So we'll just take Councillor Kneebone for lateness. All those in favour, please. I'll second. Councillor Hodge moves. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Confirmation of agenda.
Just before you do, Mr. Chairman,
sure.
I'd just like to raise that unfortunately someone seemed fit to steal my photo from the Councillors' Lounge, which I take exception to, and I ask that it is not returned, that you report this or the CEO report it to the police. It's just having stuff stolen from the chamber here is not good enough and serious. And I know that people would love it, like Winston Churchill. Some think I'm much like him, or some say Donald Trump, but they're no doubt going to put it above their fireplace. But I would like it returned, please.
A collector's item, obviously.
Thank you very much.
The CEO staff is undertaking evaluation and trying to discover what actually happened. It appears that it vanished a couple of days ago, so we're just having a look into that. Yes, so we'll look into that. Thank you, Russ. With that, we have a fairly long agenda and a little bit of training in there as well in the middle. So I'd like to confirm the agenda, but before I do, CEO, would you like to make a comment, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to advise you that for one of the public excluded items this afternoon, item 10.2.2, which is the Waikato Stream application consideration, the directors have asked if they could actually attend and possibly even make some comments for that paper. And so the advice to them has been that at the Chair's discretion that could happen, and just ensure that councillors are aware of that.
So that being a public excluded item, that will be, I will allow the directors to attend during that item, but it being public excluded, it will just be those directors, not anybody else. And for councillors' information, my intent is it's not a full presentation because that's been made before. It's about a short statement of the position at the moment, and then opportunity for councillors to ask questions, and then deliberations will be still in public excluded. So basically directors will be asked to leave after they've answered any questions. So that's where we're going with that one.
Mr. Chairman, just apropos that topic, and I totally agree with that. I think it's of great interest, and but when you say they come to present that, I only one vote, but I think we need time where they actually depart so we can have a full and frank discussion among ourselves without the applicant being present.
That's my intent. My intent is that they it's not a full presentation, it's basically to update us on the current situation, and then for councillors to ask questions and have those answered. Then we will have a full public exclude where they leave and will be in deliberations and discussions and make decisions. After the decision is made, that will be reported into the public open section. So after we've had the deliberations. Thank you for that. So with that, I'll confirm the agenda. I'll move I'll move that agenda be confirmed, seconded by Russ Remington. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Any disclosures of interest by councillors in respect of particularly the items on the agenda? There being none, we'll move on to confirmation of the council minutes of that's item 4 on page 4. So if you just refer to your agenda papers there, can I have a mover for those minutes? Yes, Councillor Virco. Nice to see you back at the table after that meeting earlier on. Thank you, Councillor Virco. And Councillor Jennifer Nicol will second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Committees reporting to Council. On page 16, we have the CERC, the CE Employment Remuneration Committee. We'll be considering some items later on that have been put forward through the Council and public excluded, moved by yes, Councillor McPherson, and I will second that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So we move to page 19, and that is the Strategy and Policy Committee. Pamela Story.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just the minutes offering them a motion that they are a true and correct record, noting the Section A decision items and the submissions that were discussed at that meeting have been presented.
Thank you. And I will second that those minutes be received. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Now we move to the Contracts Committee, and that's on page 25. Got to keep up with this rapidness. Well, they're making good progress. So these are all Section A items, and there has been our contract extension with BP was presented, and quite a lot of discussion around that. We eventually put that through and got clarity that that's certainly in the best interests of Council. So I'd like to move that those be received, those minutes. And Andrew, would you like to second those minutes? Okay. So you got Councillor Kneebone.
Can I just have a question about
it? Yes, sure.
Yeah. So I noticed that Councillor McPherson voted against it, and I thought, I don't really know a lot about this, and I wondered if we could please have a little bit more information about it and perhaps an explanation about what the concern was.
Yes. Essentially, staff put forward the contract extension with BP. My comment is that some of the compelling factors were, it was definitely a price advantage in terms of what was presented to Council. The other consideration, which was of some moment and discussed, was the network, the ability of a network, and the discussion appeared to me to mainly revolve around whether a New Zealand business was being backed or an international. But there might like to be further comment by Councillor McPherson.
Thanks, Kathy, for asking that question. I have a real problem with this, agreeing to this. My problem is we've got a young Kiwi company that's got a head office just over the hill, and we didn't even go and talk to them. We didn't even give Waitomo the benefit of a conversation. So I think that's wrong. I think the optics for a company like this that's getting started, that's a Waikato family, that's creating jobs for Kiwis, especially in the Waikato, they should have been shown more respect, so I voted against it.
Right. Thank you, Councillor McPherson. We won't be debating because it's a Section A item. So, but I did accept that you asked that question and we got the clarity on that. So thank you for that.
Can I just ask one further question?
Sure.
So why did we not go out and talk to anybody else other than BP?
There was, I understand, quite a number of parties that were involved in the consideration. I'll ask through the CEO might like to identify the appropriate staff member to answer that question.
Yeah, I think Janine would be placed to answer that.
So, our CFO, can come to a microphone. Russ, do you want to re-hit your button? Yeah.
Mate, think I don't believe in space. You do your way, you go.
Chris,
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Move up here, and you can see, you can get the whole sound and vision show.
take a while to fire up on that one. Takes a few seconds. Here we go.
Thank you.
And action.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So the contract that was put forward for the consideration of the Contracts Committee was under an all-of-government arrangement. And so as discussed with the committee, where there is an all-of-government contract available, then that is our sort of first preference, given the negotiating power, and particularly in relation to this fuel contract, the number of participants in it and the volumes of fuel that are purchased through the agreement. It was noted in the discussion at the committee meeting, and it was largely at the request of the Tenders Board, that some benchmarking of prices or savings achieved through comparative purchases at alternative fuel providers had been undertaken, and that sort of point analysis had confirmed that the contract with BP was providing value for the council.
Thank you, Janine. So that was, as I remind you, it's a Section A item, but there was a range of discussion, and it was agreed that it was in the best interests of council to actually accept that in the end. So thank you for that, councillors. We now have Councillor Husband and Councillor Remington to speak.
It's a question on the minutes.
Yes,
the page 25 is, can someone explain what is that New Zealand Defence Force? That's not the New Zealand Defence Force, obviously. Because if it is, it's spelled with an S, not a C.
Yeah, that's correct. Correct. There's a correction to that notation. Thank you for that.
All right.
Obviously, well read.
Cover to cover.
Well read.
Cover to cover.
Thank you for that, Russ. I thought Councillor Burko would pick that up, but Councillor Remington.
Barry, and well chaired. Section A is for noting, but questions can be asked, and I think you're chairing it bang on the money. And this is council to finally endorse or otherwise. So because it's Section A, it doesn't mean you have to agree with the contract subcommittee. I'm not saying that to you, but to other councillors. I think you've raised some questions there, and Councillor McPherson, I'm going to propose that you sit again on this matter.
Point of order, Chair. I think there's a more fulsome response due Councillor White, and I'd like to offer a perspective. Basically, we second-guessed the market. We assumed because we couldn't buy fuel in Whitianga from Waitomo that they wouldn't have a 500-litre tow-behind tank that they might consider, being a nimble, flexible New Zealand organisation to meet our needs. So we looked at New Zealand Defence Force and said big is beautiful, but we didn't show enough respect to the people in our rohi.
I do take the CFO's comment that that was clear evidence that was a very significant reduction in cost that was considered over and above even what the farmers discounters. So it was very significant. So the whole thing revolved around, as I understand it, Councillor McPherson, around New Zealand company and its ability to provide a network. So those were the two matters. The question is whether how you weigh up those matters. In my mind, ratepayers' money is very important in terms of these days and the costs. So hence, for me, that certainly won the day to ensure.
Would I just, as long as you vote against it, you want a motion that, you know, get a second that we sit in on this matter? How do you handle this?
Right. So I just want to thank you for raising that. Obviously, we've got a couple of meetings to go in the triennium, and you've got to test the chair. I'm just referred to my colleague here in Democracy Services. Decisions made under delegated authority cannot be rescinded or amended. So nothing in these standing orders allows a council committee or subcommittee to rescind or amend a lawful made decision of a subordinate decision-making body carried out under delegation, authorising the making of that decision. So that's our standing orders. That's pretty clear. So I do welcome the discussion because it gives a great deal of clarity around the topic. So I thank all councillors for raising it. So with that, yes, that's right, that's right. So it's appropriate to have discussion, and that's what we've done. And I think councillors have really well and truly clarified it. Thank you with that. You've made one comment on.
Is that all we're allowed?
But it's not. But it's on a different element, wasn't it? So I'll take your second point.
Just wondering, did we actually? Because we don't get to see the figures of what your actually lease price is.
Yes.
But you guys obviously got to see that.
It's commercially sensitive, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So, is it? Can I ask? Was it around the 60 cents a litre?
No, well, that's getting down to
well,
details.
No, that's what we get as a farmer through a Celtic.
All I'm saying is it's actually better than that. I think I said that earlier.
Yeah, no, on your Celtics card now, if you fill up
that's right.
the pump,
I can tell you,
North Fuels are doing it.
Councillor, I think you can take it. This is a nationwide contract. So it's achieved through significant amount of councillors and other entities, and you've heard Defence Force probably initiate it, but it's obviously all of government, and so the ability to create very significant discounts with that amount of buying power was showing up in the cost.
I guess
I will take only quickly. We've got two other speakers, so I'll take.
I guess the only reason I ask is if you take the likes of Fonterra, they give their suppliers 20 cents a litre off, and they're a huge outfit to get money back. Whereas North Fuels now are doing that other thing, and I'm not naming companies or expecting anyone to go to different companies, but I'm just making sure that we've checked all the companies, because I had two councillors over there go, what? No, there's no such thing. But there is if you fill up at the
I just take it that
as long as we've done a good due diligence.
When you've got all of government, it's even.
We guessed. So I'm getting from one of the councillors on contracts committee that we guessed.
In terms of consumption, if you take the Fonterra compared with all of government, the weighting of all of government and the influence that all of government contract had was very significant. I'll just say that. But I've got two more speakers. I'll take Fred, make it quick and short. Yes.
Yes. Look, it's a couple of things. Procurement policy. Okay, we have a procurement policy, and that allows for adjustment because we do support ratepayers, local ratepayers. But the biggest problem I have severe concern, serious concern, that when 50% of your committee is voting this down, does not agree with it, then as a council that has given these three people delegated authority, is a concern to me, because we know, we have been warned about this, that meeting or that makeup of that committee should have more members in it. So when 50% of the members are saying no,
33%,
33%, but one's a chair.
33.
So,
Still a voting member.
yeah, I've got
So-
concerns and I support local business.
Yeah.
And if it
Unders-
means, because we don't know the figures,
So your point is you're just raising the numbers on that committee. It's something that the incoming triennium, the new council might consider, but that's really up for that
well, it's
council
a
to
concern
consider.
to full council, I would
So,
hope.
yes, for the new council, I think it's appropriate. Councillor Burko.
Just very quickly, I support the resolution. I think we've got a responsibility to all our ratepayers to get the cheapest deal. I am aware of what the figure is, the discount we get it is considerable. It's at all of government, and I think it's a no-brainer. They've got the network and they've got the price. I would have supported it.
So you're happy to move?
I'm happy to move.
Move the minutes, and I'll second that. Noting also now that's concerning section A, and we go to the section B item. Oh, that's regional connections. We're going to get to section B. So we'll just receive those minutes. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Now we move on to regional. Yes. Noted. Do you want that noted? Yes, noted. And Councillor McPherson and Remington against, and Councillor White, Councillor Litchfield, and Councillor Husband. So 5 against. Do you want a division? We'll call a division. So we have voting against is Councillor McPherson, Councillor Remington, Councillor Husband, Councillor Litchfield, and Councillor White. Right. So it's for receipt of those minutes. Thank you for that. So now we move on to the Regional Connections Committee, page 30. Now, Councillor Strange is an apology, so I'll invite Councillor Verco to lead this discussion on this item, noting that on page 30 it indicates that Section A items are there before you. The Section B items are to do with the concession of the Super Gold Card and the nationwide ticketing. So first of all, let's just take confirmation of the agenda on the items to do with Regional Connections Committee meeting and reports, etc.
I'll move.
So moved by Councillor Teague.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Councillor Burko. Now we'll take them all as one, and I'll see how we go with the Section B items. But would you like to comment on any Section A? Or
I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may propose.
So now there being one question there, Councillor Teague.
Oh, just a brief comment about these two items. You know, the Super Gold Card is a very modest charge. Seems to fit in with, you know, it's appropriate at its level. The second one in the Section B, I think, is a really exciting development. Just for councillors' information, so this is being developed nationwide. So wherever you travel in New Zealand, when this scheme is up and running, you'll be able to present your credit card or similar card, and you'll be able to get on and off, you know, public transport anywhere. So it's a really good development. I believe it's at no cost to this council. It's been right.
So thank you for that comment, Councillor Teague. My comment before Councillor Verco comments is I was interested in what gave rise to instating that standard charge of $5. What was reported to the committee was that Supercard gold holders from outside the region in particular were making a considerable impact on the system in terms of those requests and getting those cards for free from outside of the region. So there was administrative cost in the burgeoning explosion in that area. So it was appropriate, and the reason why it's recommended to council is, and this is my reading, is that that charge would cover just the new ones. It's not for anybody who's an existing card holder. So don't think that if you're an existing card holder, you're basically lumped with this charge. It's for any new card holder who's coming in, and it's to cover that cost of that side of things. So that explains 7, and I will now ask Councillor Burko to comment further.
Oh, we've been asking for ages to get a uniform card system throughout the country. It made a nonsense when we started Te Hui, and you had to get a card from Waikato, and that would take you to Papakura. You then got off the train and you went and got a different card to get through the Auckland network, and it was a bloody nonsense. This has solved the problem we've been asking for ever since we started Te Hui. So well done.
Councillor Remington.
No, good response. Through you, Mr. G, just with the super gold card, which I think one of the greatest things that Winston Peters actually developed. I think it's just awesome in Australia. That's called a community card, and it's just part of life. It's fantastic. So well done to Winston Peters on that. But the question I have to you is the super gold card, is there any time restrictions? At peak time, can I use the gold card? And you use the gold card too? Or is it time sensitive? Thank you.
It's not time sensitive.
Councillor Husband next.
Yeah, I was just wondering who I'll probably talk to you offline, but the B card still only gets you to Parnell. It doesn't get you around the Auckland network. It absolutely doesn't.
The new system will be, the whole of the country will work off the same system.
Oh, brilliant. That's brilliant.
So that's that item that's been recommended to you in that next item is to move to a nationwide system. That's right. Thank you. Councillor Burko, do you want to make final comment before I put
No, we've been asking for it for a long time. This is progress.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Burko. So I'll now put the receipt of A's and the recommendation be approved. That's section B's. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So now we move from regional connections to recommendations in finance and services for urgent council consideration. I'll hand over to Chris first. This is quite significant and important. Thank you, Chris.
Just a prior statement as John Crane comes forward. I think that this is only part of the Finance and Services Committee that was held earlier this month. The rest of it will be coming through to the September minutes. So certainly RSHL, Regional Sector Holdings Limited, that this council was a founding shareholder of, is looking to transition to be a wider regional sector service. And I think, and that therefore makes us look at what's the shareholding of RSHL. And I think it's best that John Crane, who's principally involved in it, discuss the change.
Before John introduces the item, basically the whole of the committee meeting was dealing with the RSHL, which is the original shared services organisation, and then how we deal with the IRIS, the next generation program, and as I've interpreted it, which under section B, which is facilitating greater involvement of more councils around the whole of New Zealand to come to the party, so the shared services model is spread, and its new scheme is spread right across the whole of New Zealand. That's the intent, and the aim is to preserve our council's position with respect to the IT and other on the original program, the IRIS program. So that's where, that's how I sum it up, but I'll leave it to John, who'll give you the real detail around it. John.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple of slides just to provide some background. First, the first item is the RSHL transition to a broader regional sector shared service organisation. Just the background on this. So RSHL is a council-controlled organisation. It was established more than 10 years ago initially for the development and operation of IRIS, a shared software solution. WRC is one of 6 current shareholding councils, and RSHL is now delivering an increasing number of collaborative solutions to the regional and unitary sector. Dave, if we could just put the next slide up, please. Thanks. The intent is to consolidate a number of collaboration programs across the sector under a revised entity, a regional sector shared service organisation based on RSHL, and that will provide the structure to better support these future collaborative initiatives. This has been signalled in the strategic direction in the RSHL business plan and endorsed by the regional sector CEOs. The transition will extend shareholding from the current 6 councils to potentially all regional and unitary councils, with equal shareholding and ownership through Class A shares. Class B shares will remain for maintaining the asset ownership of the current IRIS solution. And the request is for existing shareholders to sign the shareholders agreement to enable that transition to take place by the end of this month.
So invite any questions or clarification. Councillor McPherson.
John, can you share with my colleagues, please, the voting rights ascribed to the Class A and Class B shares? And can you also share with our council the benefit we get from our size, if any?
Yes, so just through the chair, the voting rights are equal for all shareholders. So each, under the current RSHL structure, each of the 6 shareholding councils appoint a director, and there's an independent director. Those directors have equal voting rights regardless of the size of the council or the contribution made by the council.
So as I understand it, even though there's equal voting rights, there has been, John, for the existing, has been significant benefit to council in that if it had tried to fund entirely its software, it is gained by having those involved parties. We have gained significantly in our ability to fund the current IRIS. That's the original IRIS.
That's correct. In terms of funding, Waikato Regional Council contribute a greater percentage of the shared funding than a smaller council such as West Coast. However, no council pays the full amount. So Waikato's contribution to shared programs is 36%. It has been to date. That means we've taken 36% of the cost and risk rather than 100%. So all councils benefit and have benefited throughout the program from that shared investment, that shared risk, and shared good practice and consistency in how we operate.
Thanks. Councillor McPherson.
John, I'd like our colleagues to understand and make no mistake, we've invested our ratepayers' money historically. This is another example of us being involved in IT type of projects where we do a lot of heavy lifting. There's another example coming up later in the public excluded session. We do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of ratepayers' money that we invest, and I don't think we're adequately compensated going forward for those risks. So here, for example, you've just been told we have as much voting rights as our colleagues in small councils. That Councillor Remington has a name for those councils, but I can't repeat that. I just think it's sad that, well, that wasn't the word I was thinking of. But John, I think it's sad that we don't get the financial recognition that I think is due for us for the commercial risks that we take in these IT projects. That's all.
Okay. Just to, before I pass back to John, what we're talking about here is we've had an entity which for some time has been the guardian with a number of other councils, 6 councils, around about that?
There are 6 shareholding councils.
So 6 shareholding councils, so 5 others. We're now talking about moving to a new software package which has far more extensive capability, and that is a totally different model, and that's where this council is not holding, let's say, the lion's share. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there's a different model going forward than what, so I think that alleviates much of the concern about the heavy lifting for the new model. Would that be correct?
That's correct. In the new model, and you'll see in the next paper, the new model assigns 16.5% of the shared contribution from this council. The point I would still like to ensure all councillors are clear on is that our contribution and our risk is still significantly lower than it would be if we weren't involved as a collaborative group.
That's right. And I've been, one of the mantras I've always put forward, as you know, councillors, is shared cooperation is a way forward to reduce your costs and to also be at the bleeding edge or the leading edge of technology. And so, you know, that's certainly an approach I have. Now, I have speakers, Councillor Nicol.
Yeah, thank you for presenting that. My question was around what determines how much each council pays, but overall my comment would just be I've been a fan of the RSHL for a long time and the benefits we get from that, and it makes a lot of sense to me to band together in the regional sector when local government obviously can get so many benefits from doing things together rather than in individual parts based on the amount of, I'm going to say, power we have in the great scheme of things compared to central government, who obviously have a lot of national type systems. So yeah, that was my question.
Sorry, I just lost the question.
It was around what determines how much each council pays.
Sorry, yes, that's right.
Yeah, not in great detail, but just.
The model for the existing RSHL was quite a complex one, worked out approximately 12 years ago on a combination of population, of revenue, of staff size. I think there were 6 components that made up the calculation as to the proportion of share ownership. Going forward in the new model, there has been an agreement across the regional chief execs of a division between large, medium and small councils, and we are in the large category.
Right.
And that's based on a general assessment of the size and ability to fund.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Vercoe.
Yeah, totally supportive. It's a way to go forward and that councils need to work together. The problem that you've got when you start saying that we are larger, so therefore we should have more say, is you blow the whole system of working together out the door. If you look at what we did many years ago when all the territorial authorities had their own building departments and the building inspectors with different interpretations of what the legislation actually required, and the builders were tearing their hair out saying, why do I get this answer from Waipang, a different answer from Hamilton City, and the right answer from Matamatapiako? Is there a better way? So therefore we got them all together, and it's the collective agreement of all to achieve a common goal rather than I'm bigger than you and I will outvote you. It's not a voting system. It's saying, hey, if we work together, we can achieve something that we will all benefit from. I totally support it.
Thank you, Councillor Vercoe. Councillor Kneebone.
Thanks. Now, look, similar sentiments. Look, I acknowledge the concerns Max raised, but you know, there's a range of different ways in which we work with our district councils, for example, big ones and small ones. And I think if we go down the track of wanting more say due to our size, and I just have to think of the Regional Transport Committee with our smaller district councils as well. I just don't think it would work. So I'm very supportive of what we're proposing here.
So with that, I have a mover and a seconder. I'll put the motion as Section A items be received and the Section B approved. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. So we now move to, thank you, Council, we're doing very well. We move to the health and safety. We've got a second part, have we? Second part. We've got a second resolution. I have to ensure we get through that. There's a second resolution which is on, is that? All right, so we have to treat 6 and 7 separately? Right. So,
if I could just help, Mr. Chair. So the first part was about the shareholding of RSHL.
Right.
The second part is about involvement in the IT development of the virus.
So the mover and the second of the last motion, happy to do the same? Yes. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. So now we move on to a report by a new health and safety person. Thank you, John.
Mr. Chair, so I think Neville Williams, who's still in isolation with COVID from home, is joining us to lead this discussion. As you know, Nick Hollington's left. Marie Fullerton, who's our Senior Health and Safety Business Partner, is on leave currently. And so we have Neville going to lead it, and we've got Matt Teague, one of our health and safety staff, with considerable experience in this area to assist in the council. Neville.
Kia ora and good morning, councillors, and apologies for not being there today, but I think given the current situation I'm in, it's probably in everyone's best interests. So look, you're well and truly familiar with the format of this reporting from now on, having seen it on multiple occasions. I'll move through fairly quickly. I guess of particular interest is a number of staff who have taken up the opportunity to have influenza vaccinations. We're pleased to report that that number's now gone up to 48.4% of our staff overall have taken the advantage of that opportunity. We're also focusing a lot on psychological hazards and risks, and that's been discussed previously at council meetings, recognising the significant impact conditions of this type have upon our staff, and our focus as an organisation to try and mitigate and manage those situations, preempt them where possible, but mitigate them when they do arise. We're also moving quite well in terms of our event and near miss reporting. We've discussed that obviously at every council meeting, and most recently we've talked about the campaign that commenced in April to increase the number of reporting and staff awareness. So that number has gone up with 16 events reported in this period. Of those, 10 were events and 6 were near misses. If we go now down, and I'm happy to take questions on the way if that pleases the chair. And if we move now down to the next section of the report under the risk profile, you'll see an example there of a conviction in the Whangarei District Court back in July of an organisation where a trailer came off the back of a truck, killing a young girl, and unfortunately, obviously, having a significant impact on her and her family. Why we've highlighted this matter is because obviously we do similar activities, maybe not in such large vehicles, but we do tow a lot of trailers and obstacles around. So felt that this was a topic that was worth comparing with the type of controls we have in place within the organisation. So we do regular checks above and beyond what the certificate of fitness or warrant of fitness checks may require to ensure that all of our vehicles are roadworthy and safe, and we'd like to just provide that guarantee to council. If we continue to move on down to the COVID-19 section of the report, which is section 20. Again, we're still working within the orange COVID-19 protection framework settings. You're well and truly familiar with those, and believe that our processes are working well. Numbers have dropped off. I don't have the exact numbers in front of you. Matt may, if you require it, be able to provide an indication where we are at now with testing numbers within the council offices. But sufficient to say that we continue to promote the protection framework guidelines and keep that heightened awareness as a result.
So, Director Williams, maybe you can give council a first-hand knowledge of what actually happens, because you are currently at home because of COVID. So do you have a RAT test before you appear back in the council building?
Yes, and
do you have those at home, or how do you go about that?
Yes, I do have the test present with me, and yes, that's one of the things that I'll be taking prior to returning to the building. Once you start to manifest symptoms or believe that you've been exposed to COVID and you have a test, you're required to, if you're at work, as I was in my particular situation, to leave the building immediately, to go home, register through the COVID app your situation, which will be provided then with support where necessary. And in my case, I've received great support. And then when you're cleared to return, you can come back into the building. We also use a process of notification, a workflow process, whereby you alert your situation through to health and safety, and they put in place the required controls to ensure that those people who should be alerted are alerted, and any cause for concern is mitigated to the greatest degree possible.
So just the other area what might interest councillors is, have you, I presume ELT has discussed this at some length, have you noticed any challenges around your team being able to continue the work and the work of your area in this situation?
No, it's been surprisingly smooth and seamless. And our remote working capability, obviously, is how I'm participating in this forum today, is first rate, and it's standing up well to the requirements, these unique requirements we operate under today in this, this COVID context. So no, everything has been continuing as normal. I've been participating in ELT meetings, a number of other committee meetings as well, of which I'm a member or have a role to play this week, and staff are getting on with their responsibilities accordingly.
Thank you for that. You can carry on with the report.
Thank you. We'll move on now to, I think of interest is under section 25 of the report is the graphic that you'll see in front of you, which demonstrates where the flu tracking from a national perspective is sitting currently. So we are starting to come through to the tail end. There's a month or two to go probably of the flu season, but we're on the downside of the peak. You'll see in the brown line there, which is the current 2022 year up into the 1st of August, correlates quite closely with the 2019 line, which was pre-COVID. So that COVID situation, the yellow and the blue lines for 2020 and 2021 show very low influenza rates given the lockdown periods and so forth occurring. As we've come out the other side of those intense lockdown requirements, we've seen the influenza rate start to go back up to somewhat normal levels. So I thought that may be of interest to council.
Thank you, Neville. I have some questions for you. Councillor Husband.
Yeah, hi, Nev.
G'day, mate.
Get well soon, mate.
Thank you.
I just, the vehicle crashes, I've got a couple of questions if that's all right. Vehicle crashes on page 39, and the answer is not to drive. It's like we're in especially in our ICM directorate, you're in a part of council that you need to do face-to-face stuff. And I hope we're not encouraging to start not doing that and using health and safety as a reason not to fall in the water. And when you're dealing with landowners, especially, you need to have face-to-face. And that's why we've been so successful in our ICM group, that we do encourage that face-to-face stuff. So whether it's good, bad, or ugly, we encourage that face-to-face. So I'm concerned that we might be sending a message to staff to just do it remotely if you can. Yeah, I don't know. That's just how it looks to me. Yeah.
No, I understand the concern that you've raised, and it's probably best addressed by the ICM director. But my understanding is that where suitable, staff continue to meet face-to-face with landowners and stakeholders in the field. They continue to attend public meetings and so forth to ensure that we are communicating effectively and getting our messages across. But it's not just confined to ICM. We have staff in the SPI Directorate, for example, who are currently undertaking a vast array of public meetings and consultation processes. They do those both virtually and physically. And to a large large extent, we're back to almost a business as usual approach in many of our community engagement processes, but obviously being critically aware of the need to maintain our staff safety and security where possible. But I would like to assure you that even though that mitigation, that control is in place to meet virtually where possible, we're also balancing that with the practicality and the pragmatic benefits of meeting with our customers and our stakeholders directly.
Okay, yeah, I understand. I get it. I just would be worried, Mr. Chair, if that's left to the interpretation of staff.
Right.
So,
I think
me personally, I'd meet remotely every single time I could.
Okay.
Right? And not drive out my driveway. So I think it's important that as an organisation, we're sending a clear message that, hey, no, it's only if you definitely can't.
Thanks, Councillor. If you
I've got a couple more.
Before you
complete rush.
Okay, ask the next. I'll leave Greg there to answer that actual question later on. So we'll come back to you later, but just hang in there. Next question.
When you're talking about the reporting of rat tests and things like that, has any councillor been asked to do a rat test before they come back in? Because I certainly wasn't, and I don't know if any other. Were you? No. So we're okay to come back in the building and spread them out.
Comment on that, Director Williams.
Hey?
Councillors are asking.
Myself at home, I'm negative. I'm responsible.
Asking.
But the organisation.
As I understand it, the protocol is quite clear that councillors, where they've got symptoms or are returning, they should be taking a rat test. There is provision. Can you just go over, is there provision for councillors to obtain rat tests?
Look, I'll pass that question over to Matt. I believe, yes, there is. There's absolutely provision for councillors to obtain and undertake rat tests via our health and safety team. But Matt could, if you could just clarify the protocol, please.
What we'll do is,
I'll just finish my last question.
If you take.
So with the election period, just one more. The election period and the 1080 stuff that's going on up in the Coromandel, how are you going to keep councillors safe as they're going around doing electioneering? Because there'll be a lot of community meetings up that way. So how you, because I don't know what's going on up there, but it sounds like it's getting pretty nasty. So from that report that came out from Health and Safety the other day. So what are we doing to protect future candidates and people that are running for WRC or existing councillors up there? Again, we probably all think it's a joke, until someone gets shot.
I'll put it to Chris first, and then Neville if he wants follow-up comments.
And I'll highlight Manai if anyone thinks guns won't be used.
Councillor Husband, good question. I'll have to check with Marley, the electoral officer, of what we are able to do in terms of advising of any security risk we might be aware, but I'm not sure it's within our responsibility to be able to determine where electoral candidates go and who they see, who they talk to.
I mean, you should be advising them. If you've got information that you're sitting on, it should be knowledgeable to all people that are standing for WRC.
Well, I suppose it's a matter that, should we make the public aware as well and whose responsibility it is? I will check with the electoral officer about what those responsibilities are.
Because then the candidate themselves can say, no, I don't want to go there.
Thank you for raising that. I think there'll be some clarity given. You want to take your light off, and then I'll take Councillor White, and we'll collect up all your answers together at the end, Greg. And Councillor Remington.
Thank you for your advice.
And then Councillor White. Councillor White, then press it again, and we'll get you in some order. So Councillor White, Councillor McPherson, then Councillor Remington will be in my order. Is that all right? You happy with that? Councillor White, then Councillor McPherson, and then Councillor Remington.
So just following up on questions I've asked in previous meetings about near misses and just being aware of this Johnston's direct logistics and then saying that the health and safety of other persons, it's important that that's not put at risk from work carried out as part of the conduct of the business or undertaking. I just want to know whether the EPA has finished their investigation into the Department of Conservation allegation that WRC contractors put poison bait bags too close to walking tracks. Has that been completed, that investigation, and what was found out from it?
So I checked in with my team recently, so there's no further update from the EPA on that I can provide.
Okay, but will you actually come back to us as soon as we have an update?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank
so
you.
they'll be reported through the ICMC.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Remington, you've got the floor now. You've got a red light.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Mine goes back just in regard to the safety chains, Director Williams, and thanks very much for, while it seems small, it's not, we just had a fatality, or other council has. I've had the occasion, which I'm not that proud of, is that when the coupling came adrift from the tow ball, it had a safety chain on it, but over the years, the safety chain had been, had a larger load rubbed on the road, and it just actually snapped the chain itself. And when you're driving and you see the trailer kind of overtaking you, it's not a good feeling, and it's downright kind of, lethal is the word. I noticed a lot of councils, they really do take it seriously, and I'm sure you do too. But they use double chains, and I'm sure you do as well. So they really, I bought one the other day, and I think it was out of one of the progressive smaller councils, big heavy chain, and there were two on it. I thought, well done to you guys. I just offer that for a little bit of experience.
Thank you.
And I hope you get well.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor McPherson.
Yeah, a couple of questions through you, Chair. Neville, I wish you the best of luck in terms of your health as well. Can you give us some sort of comfort that nothing's going to slip between the gaps as Nick Ollington's left the building and he's being replaced, because there is a risk here that a bunch of institutional knowledge is gone. Matt, I welcome you to the chamber. I don't know your background, and hopefully the Chief Executive will introduce you, and there'll be a seamless sort of handover or a sharing of responsibility. That's my first question. The second question is of the Chief Executive. So Chris, we've seemed to have achieved what we wanted to achieve when it cut. Sorry, can you hear? Can you give me some comfort that the apparent lift in near-miss reporting is leading to some sort of insights from you, Neville, and maybe Matt, because I would hate for us to come to this chamber and make a song and dance about near-miss reporting and be told near-miss reporting's gone up. So the next question is, so what? And the so what as a leading indicator of health and safety is we should, in theory, see a change of behaviour and a fall off in accidents and other demonstrations that we've got an actual health and safety culture, not a nominal one.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I could just possibly respond to both of the questions being asked. So Marie Fullerton is our senior health and safety person in the organisation. She is still with us. She just happens to be on leave today. And so there will be continuity there. We have actually a good team underneath, including Matt. And Matt, when you do get to respond to the previous questions, you might just like to give a little bit of your background, including your health and safety background, which is what he was recruited on the basis of. In terms of the learnings from near misses, yes, we do have reports to ELT on a regular basis through a corporate strategy group where health and safety is reported in. It's a standing item every week on the ELT agenda, and the increase in near miss reporting is good. I think Neville would be fair to say, or Matt would be fair to say, that it's not coming off a base of serious incidents that have just been near missed. There's a whole range of different types of incidents, and we do look at them and we try and learn from it and put processes in response. Neville, do you want to add to that?
Thank you, Chris. The reality is that as much as possible, we attempt to provide mitigation for all of the health and safety risks within the organisation. Now, you'll see within the report that we have identified all of our top risks and that we have controls and mitigations in place for all of those to the greatest degree possible. But we're also constantly reviewing them to ensure that those controls are fit for purpose and are appropriate and reflect current best practice. As you also will see, we're moving forward quite well in that psychological risk assessment space, which is really important as well. So we analyse and review those issues that present themselves as near misses and those that present themselves as injuries or incidents, and get to the bottom of them, particularly if they've got potential to have a serious nature associated with them. I think our controls are strong. I think that they are broad and that they are encompassing, and that we have good structure and good methods in place to ensure to the best degree possible the health, safety and well-being of our people in our organisation. As Chris pointed out, none of this is dependent on any one individual. So even though sadly Nick has left us, that does not mean that our system will fail as a result. The system is robust, it is well structured, we have great confidence in it, and as a system we think that it will continue to be sustainable and perpetuate over the long term and deliver the outcomes that we are seeking, particularly the protection of our people. Matt may have other comments to make in terms of the detail of some of the current events that are being reported today, if you feel that's required. But I always want to give Council absolute assurance that our health and safety systems are strong and they are resilient, and they are not dependent on any one individual to be successful.
We'll refer, thanks Neville, we'll refer to Matt and Greg at this point for any comments in relation to any matter that's been brought up to date.
Yeah, I can just briefly respond to Councillor Husband's concern that we absolutely don't dissuade people from meeting with the community if that's the best approach to get the outcomes that we need.
Matt?
Thank you. Hello everyone. Just a bit of background on myself. So I'm started out in the UK doing health and safety and occupational hygiene for the UK Royal Navy. I came over to New Zealand 4 years ago where I worked for WorkSafe in the major hazards team, and then I joined a aviation company before coming here. Thank you. Since then I've been here for 8 months, updating the systems here and implementing the COVID policy protocols. That's a bit of background on me. For Councillor Husband's question on RAT tests, RAT tests are available to councillors, so if you do request them, if you go through your democracy advisors, they will be able to get those for you through the health and safety team.
Thank you for that. So we'll now move on to the other questions. Councillor McPherson, you had another question?
Yes, thank you. It's just to do with this first assessment for the year, review the delivery of recently introduced safety and e-learning induction for new staff. Why have you picked that one? What is some aspect of that e-learning module that you've got concerns about? I'm assuming there's a bunch of other systems you've got to review. Why have you gone for that one?
It's a recently implemented learning and development program that has just been put in place for new starters. So with the new IT info system, we were just making sure that the notifications were working correctly.
Now, don't go on to your favourite. So it's good to hear there's constant review of these things, and I think Councillor McPherson would welcome that. Councillor Teague.
Yeah, thanks. Just a bit more on that health and safety warning in the Upper Coromandel. I really appreciated that heads up, and I contacted staff and I was advised to contact the meeting organisers to see what protocols they have in place. So that was good advice. I've done that, and in the past they have had security there, so they were just checking whether they would do that. I'm really keen to attend those meetings, but I'll keep that under advisement and see what response I get back from the organisers. So I think the staff did a good job there. Thank you.
Councillor Husband, last comment? Oh,
Yeah,
Councillor
it's just following on of you're new to the role, and it's something that I've harped on about for years, and I'm leaving, so no big deal to me. But someone's going to get really hurt in this space. You know, they've been threatened for years. I can remember going out there and there's fisticuffs out there and all sorts. Manias happen now. There's an undertone there that's seriously dangerous. And I'm not saying anything to do with 1080. I'm just saying the whole environment out there at the moment. But I don't understand, and I can't get my head around that you know who the people who have put their names forward to stand for regional council. And it's great that Dennis knows, that's fantastic. But you know the names of the people that have stood for regional council. Even be able to tell those people, I think there's only one other, Warren. You know, to be able to tell Warren officially, hey, look, we've had these threats or whatever out there, take all precautions necessary, and leave it in his hands. But then he gets to make that decision as well as Dennis is making that decision. I don't think it should be just because you're a sitting councillor you get the information. I think it should be anyone who's standing for our regional council. That's just my thoughts, Mike.
CEO?
Look, I think you've made your point well, and as I said before, I'll raise it with the electoral officer to see what our responsibilities are there, what we can and can't do. Your point's made.
So, Fred, comment?
Yeah, I'll keep it real brief. I think Councillor Husband's made the point, and there is aggro. There's a lot of aggro out there. I came across some in Kawhia that was pretty horrendous, but there is no police. You know, they're not prepared to respond to what is considered minor offences. And again, we've got a lot of out campaigning, tika whara, where I assume Pamela will be attending, myself, and asked the organisers, and they said police will attend to keep people safe. Because as Councillor Husband's pointing out, there is a lot of aggression out there, and I think it's a responsibility of not democracy services, but of the electoral officer to protect democracy, because people are turned off and targeted when their names are broadcast as standing for local government, when we have so many disruptors and well-known wanting to turn democracy on its head. So we need to be protecting democracy a little bit better than what we are currently, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Romington.
Thanks, Barry. Mr. Chair, just through you, Chris, do we still have a register of kind of, the word is perhaps persons that are a bit unhinged? We used to have that. In fact, I think one became a kind of a councillor. Do you still have a register of persons that you are concerned for the community? That's the first question.
We don't have a register of all persons who could be of concern in the community. We certainly have a security register where there have been incidents which we keep a record of. That's correct.
And the second question or statement, Barry, is that just in the last few years, you see it wins and you see it banks. Unfortunately, the persons, organisations want to protect their staff, and we're saying, hey, we want to protect the candidates as well. I mean, there's just today, banks are open only 3 days a week for that very reason, and wins are the same thing. You've got to have an appointment to go there for good reason to protect the staff. I just think the question and the red flag that has been raised today is an important one. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to be aware, this council and electoral officer treats candidates and sitting councillors as absolutely equal. There's no, any information supplied to one must be supplied to the other and so on. So that's basically how it has to happen. Councillor Nicol?
Oh, yes. So since we're just on that topic, I actually happened to watch the Stuff Interactive last night, Fire and Fury. It was around the Parliament protests and so forth. I did recommend it, but I just thought I'd say that it really would be worth putting some consideration, Chris and team, into the induction for new councillors, and just a holistic understanding of the disinformation, misinformation. I think we've talked about that before, and the trends that are underway, as well as what we kind of touched on there now as to keeping safe as a politician in general. Just be nice for that to be part for the next council.
I think, yes, briefing incoming councillors on those aspects is absolutely vital. Councillor White, last speaker on this particular subject.
I just wanted to add some information to it. I told councillors quite a long time ago that a rāhui had been put on Moihau. I understand the hapu has applied to the Māori Land Court for resolution, and that the hapu have issued trespass notices to DOC and to the contractors. I think there'll probably be peaceful protests there. There've been peaceful protests in the past. I'm not aware of anything that's happened that's violent, and there's normally police presence.
Thank you, Councillor.
I wouldn't think that there would be any attention paid to anybody who is standing for council, although there might be people at the meetings asking questions about what you think about 1080. That's about it. But I think that's about all that would happen.
Thanks, Councillor. I want to bring this to a close. Just make some final comments. I think it's vitally important that Council discusses the health and safety report in depth in so far as the Council and also councillors. So I welcomed all the comments and the interest that's been put forward this morning about this topic, because it is absolutely vital, whether you're a councillor or a director these days, to be acutely interested in health and safety matters, particularly in the current environment, as you have all mentioned aspects of. So I welcome and thank you for all your inputs on this report. Is there any final comments? I'll take one more question before we go to morning tea. Neville, do you want to finish off, just round off your report? Because I think we've had plenty of time for questions.
No, look, thank you, Chair. I think the report, the remainder of the report is reasonably straightforward and doesn't need any further coverage from me. If there's any further questions, however, Matt or I are keen to respond to them.
Thank you. We've had a good round of this, so movers, your husband, everybody's lining up, which is great to see because it means you have high interest. Councillor Litchfield, second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. With that, we now adjourn for morning tea, and we'll be back in 15 minutes. Yeah, we'll be back at 11. We'll be back right on 11, so it's about 12, 13 minutes.